Hey everybody, this is Chris and you're listening to One Cross Radio, and today I'm joined by the always awesome Alex White. He is a good friend, a brother-in-law, and owns an amazing restaurant in downtown Toronto called Baddies. Alex, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
For that glowing introduction.
No problem. Well, it's just truth, sir. It's just truth.
Appreciate that.
All right, so as usual, we'll just dive right in. Can you share with us a bit about your testimony, man?
Yeah. I guess I've probably been a Christian for, I think it's been just over 15 years, maybe 12 to 15 years. I didn't grow up in church. My nephew, who's actually a few years older than me, he's like a step nephew. He's the one who brought me to church. I grew up living with my mum, and she didn't go to church or anything like that. And then I moved down to Sydney, and I was in year 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. And then Jamie, my nephew, was the one who invited me to church, and then it's been going ever since. I'm loving it.
It's awesome, and I just love that little bit of my nephew, who's a couple months older than me. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Modern families, man.
It's funny. It's true. Yeah.
So you just talked about it. You grew up in Australia, and most of the people who listen to this, I'm assuming, are in Canada. At least that's what the website tells me. What was Australia like? Like, what was your experience growing up there like?
I mean, I grew up in a few different towns actually. When I grew up with my mum, she moved around a little bit, and we were usually a few hours out of the city. So the main area we grew up in was called the Blue Mountains, and there was a few different places we lived in: Leura, Katoomba, Lithgow, Portland, and they were all sort of country towns. So not much to do, pretty boring, and so whether you get up to no good or just like grow up skateboarding and that kind of thing, and that's just, for the most part, it's pretty boring out there.
Oh, okay.
So I was, until I moved down into Sydney with my dad. It was a pretty slow life, I guess, that I lived.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, man. What brought you to Canada?
My wife, Missy Meredith, your sister-in-law.
Good old Missy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we just met at Bible college probably about 10, 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was Hillsong, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hillsong. And I moved over here probably about 6 years ago in hopes that we'd be together, and we kind of just communicated across social networks for a few years before I decided to make the leap and then cross over and then see if it worked out, and it worked out really well, and I'm loving it here.
Awesome. And I'll admit, I'm selfishly glad you did that one. I'm a sucker for a good love story, and that's one where I'm like, oh, this is precious. I love this. And then also I got a pretty sweet brother-in-law out of it, so I'm like, yes.
Double whammy.
Double whammy. You've had an opportunity to see the church in two different countries. How would you say the church climate or state of it, or whatever you want to call it, is in Australia compared to Canada?
I think it's obviously the heartbeat of church is generally the same wherever you go, as long as the people are sticking to the heartbeat of God, and they're kind of connected to and part of like a Bible-believing church. I think the biggest difference is the size that I went to. The church back home was like quite big, and the main campus that I went to was a few hours out of the city, an hour out of the city as well. So it's just a different sort of lifestyle and different pace of life, I guess.
Okay.
Whereas now the church we go to here is right downtown in the middle of everything, and for the most part they're quite similar, because the church we go to, C3, it's a Australian-based church as well. So
see, I didn't know that. I knew C3 a bit, and
so
awesome, man.
For the them just originating from being from Australia, I guess it's more of a casual, relaxed environment, I guess, you know. Pentecostal kind of, or they sort of call it non-denominational, but yeah, no, it's good, it's great.
Awesome, man. And this part I'm excited about all these questions because it's just fun asking, but what can you tell us about Baddies, my good sir?
What do you want to know?
Everything.
Everything, jeez. I mean, Baddies is kind of was a vision or a dream that I shared with my dad probably like three plus years ago, and really I just I never knew that I wanted to get into coffee or anything like that, but I just, when I moved over here originally, I just saw this big gap in the market for Australian style cafes, and that just being breakfast, lunch, you know, paired with like decent coffee, that kind of thing.
Because out here, it's all, especially with you being in Toronto, it's all like throw a rock and it'll bounce off of like 5 Tim Hortons, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. The best way I describe it to people is like, imagine if every Tim Hortons, Starbucks, Second Cup, Timothy's, whatever franchise, imagine if those were all specialty shops, and that's how you describe Sydney, like, or Melbourne. It's whether or not they're good specialty, they're all just independent. Generally, they're independently owned, or they're run by just independent people. So it's kind of, there's a lot less franchises.
Yeah.
So I think it's just naturally breeds a more innovative, competitive habitat, and that's kind of why Australia's ahead of the game in so many ways, because the independence came before the Starbucks and what have you, as opposed to here, Starbucks, Tim Hortons came first, and then the independence came, so everyone's still comfortable with what they know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Baddies was just a vision, and was just birthed more so out of just a need and a desire to have that over at my home away from home, and seeing the potential for it.
Yeah, and it's been doing like really good. You can see so many great reviews online, and I will attest to, I love it. Every time whenever I get the chance to dip into the city, I'm always like, do I got a chance to dip up to Baddies? Because I love the coffee there, and the breakfast there is always great, and the quality is just there, and people seem to be really responding to it.
Yeah, I think we just we held it to a pretty high expectation, and I think what we try to do is, I don't know, we want to just do something small. Like, we have a small menu, we have everything. It's quite a small place, but we really want to make sure that what it is that we're doing is we're doing it to the best of our abilities, so with excellence. A lot of the Baddies business model is based in church fundamentals and church principles, where it's just like, you know, if you're going to do something, then you should be doing it with for God and to glorify Him, but doing it to the best of your abilities. It's like, I believe that the best businessmen or the best businesses should be owned by church people, Christians, because it's like, we're the ones representing God. So it's like, I think we should be the ones that are the best, because it's like, we're representing Him, we're His flag bearers. So I think it makes the most sense for us to be putting everything in, you know, making sure we're passionate about it, and that attesting. So when other people see, it's like, they look at our business, they'll look at it with so much more appreciation and respect, as opposed to if we had so much carelessness and lack, people would disrespect our business, and therefore they'd be like, you know, I think they would just like look at God differently in my eyes anyway.
No, and I get that. It's almost the association where
exactly.
You've done crap service, or if you're identifying as a Christian in any position or in any field, not even job, if you're being a jerk or however, what have you, someone's going to be like, well, why would I want that relationship?
Yeah.
Just on that side tangent piece, I love that you said you've got your small space, you've got a small focus on your menu, but you guys have a big atmosphere. Just because it's very welcoming, but like, there's no Wi-Fi, and I love that, where it's have a conversation with people. So it really changes the atmosphere of places. I go to coffee shops and I'm like, okay, how much am I actually staring at my phone? And then whenever I'm at Baddies, I'm like, all right, 9 times out of 10 I'm there with Jill, or I'm coming in to see you. I know I'm going to have a conversation, but seeing people actually just get to know their neighbor.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things at Baddies is when customers come in that I don't know, and there's other customers that are in there that are their friends, and they didn't realize they were going to be there, and then they meet each other there again, or they reunite, or they just see each other, and it's like, you know, you see them being really excited and happy to see one another, and then they end up having a coffee together or hanging out together, and that's just, to me, it's exactly the epitome of what I want Baddies to be. It's like a community hub, or just a spot where people feel comfortable, but then they're also in a place where they're getting a high quality product in a space that they feel accepted.
Well, that happened with me twice, where I went in to see you and I didn't know Cam was there, and then I was like, what? And I hadn't seen Cam in months, and then Jill and I went in to surprise you, and then out of nowhere my brother came in with his friend.
That's so funny.
And I was like, are you kidding me? You could have texted me or something. But I love what you're doing there, and the mentality behind it as well, being the flag bearer for the Lord and actually putting that into your business focus. That's excellent, man. You are heavily involved in your church C3. What brought you to C3, and what made you want to get more involved?
I think naturally we went to a few different churches before we found C3, and just like the way I run Baddies and the way I connect as community, and C3 really prides itself on building a community and cultivating that genuine community. And I think Pastor Sam and Jess, they're really genuine leaders, and they're not shy of leading from the front and kind of being very honest from stage and being genuine in all those capacities. And I think that transparency attracts lots of specific types of people, especially people like myself, that's how I want to be. I want to be always genuine, always transparent. When you see people putting on a facade or giving off the idea of perfection, then it's just to me, that's the most, it does the opposite effect. It just makes me, I know no one's perfect, so it's just like, so I think, for C3, it was just a breath of fresh air, and it's definitely the best church that we've ever been to and connected with, and we've made the most amazing friendships there.
Awesome.
And so I help with the coffee team there, and just with whatever else they need. And
you've given some talks to some of the leaders there too, right?
I mean, like pretty basic, just we do these things on Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning, called the team huddle, and that's just when you usually they'll just choose a specific person, and they'll just share something on their heart, and they'll tell them a week beforehand, and they just want to share something. It's only a 5-minute thing.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah,
it's nothing huge, but no, definitely would say that I'm pretty heavily involved.
Awesome. And they've got a website, yeah?
Yeah.
And awesome. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I attach the website and the link to their sermons, and so people listening can see what they're about. Baddies has a website, and you guys are crazy involved in social media. I love the Instagram stuff, so I'm going to link that up as well. So how do you see the church at work in Toronto? I know we kind of talked about it in Canada earlier, but since you're so you're heavily involved in Toronto, and you're based out of Toronto right now, how do you see it at work?
I think just how it says in the Bible that the body has many parts, and I think the church at work is the body of Christ, and the different parts that it has sort of playing their part. So whether C3 Toronto is an arm, and then another church down the road is a leg, it's just kind of together we're all playing a part to further God's will for humanity and what He wants. So I think it's hard. When you're part of one church, it's hard to see a full scope of what every church is doing. You know? But at the end of the day, it's we're all in this together, and I don't see any kind of I don't know, animosity between other churches. I'm just like, to me that seems like so pointless. Like when you hear about that kind of stuff, I'm just like, that's the last thing that you should be worrying about. That's like, it's just a waste of time, I think.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Like at points, there's times where you draw that line and where it's all right, time to call out, but then other times where it's just a church contest where it's like, well, my church's worship is hotter and yours is dated. Like,
who's that?
Yeah.
Like, what for what? It just seems pointless.
In what way is that glorifying?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, last question on the docket, my good sir. What would you say to anybody who's thinking of pursuing a business?
What kind of business?
And like in your case, it's restaurant or Baddies, but you're a person who's actually like had a thought, had a dream. Sorry. It's all good.
Yeah.
You had the thought, you had the dream.
Yeah.
And then you pursued it, and you actually made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know the backstory. It's like even like the resources of making that happen were just like made quite a lot easier because of my dad passing away and getting an inheritance and what have you. I think I definitely believe I would have figured out a way to do it even if that didn't happen.
Oh, you were determined.
It just might have taken a bit longer. But I think when it comes to business, you just have to have, especially business as a Christian, you have to have true and pure motives for business. Like, I think you feel the most energized, fulfilled, joyful when you're exercising the strengths and the talents that God's gifted you with. So even if I was given $1 million today, I'd still want to run businesses because it's just, I enjoy that. I feel like I'm gifted at that.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to multiply those talents because I get so much joy out of that, and God has put those talents in your life and in your hands because He wants you to multiply them. It's not it's like if I always knew I wanted to do a business, but then I just buried that talent, just like that servant. Then it's just like I'd go through life scared and weary and just worried and never have accomplished anything. And God would be like, Alex, I gave you like all that potential, and you just never did it because you were too fearful. So I think the biggest piece of advice would be just having pure motives, and like money can't be a driver. It's just not. There's no satisfaction in gaining more money. I don't think there's anything wrong with money, but I think it's a tool for that you just use. But at the same time, it's like I just totally believe in just being really good at something and just like pursuing something with excellence. It's like the money will come. It's just that can't be the focus. It can be just like a whatever. Like it'll fall into place. But there's just so many people that will go into business for the wrong reasons, or maybe they'll get into something that they're not gifted at. And I think having how it says wisdom is found in a multitude of counsel. I think when you have a business idea, I think you should be speaking with your friends and family about it, and then they'll be the ones that will tell you, like, I don't know if this is right for you. If I said that I wanted to be a professional landscaper, it's like I've never done that before. So people would be like, oh, like, are you sure you want to start this business? You know what I mean? So it's like having good people around you and asking those hard questions is really ideal as well. So I think I think it's just having your heart in the right place, and God definitely honors that.
And I'll definitely say before we say bye, like hearing your heart, like this is where I love these things, and it's conversations we've had, and I definitely think you're gifted with business. I've seen you with your employees and how I've had great bosses and I've had some terrible bosses, and you, even though I don't work with you, when I watch you with your employees, I'm like, you're a great boss, because you're not just being like, all right, make me money, I'm just gonna sit in the back. Like you do stuff first, you model what your employees expect to do, and I've seen you be so kind and loving to them and your customers. So
I just think it's just like how I was just saying with Pastor Sam and Jess, it's like you really got to lead from the front. You can't expect anyone under you, quotation marks, to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself, and that's a boss, it's not a leader. So it's just and they'll always respect you more for that as well. If you're the first person to fix the problem or to to help make things right, then they'll learn from you that way, and then they'll respect you, as opposed to just try and pawn everything off to them, and then they'll just get weary and tired, and then they'll just get over it. And but no, it's definitely rewarding. I think it's just really important to have your heart in the right place, and and just utilize the talents that God gives you.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for taking the time to answer the questions. We've been trying to get this together for a while.
Yeah, no worries. And
thanks so much. And thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Like I said, I'll attach the links to C3's website so you can check out them and what they're about and all the awesome stuff they're doing, along with the link to Baddies' website and their Instagram. And if y'all live in Toronto, if you get the chance, it's just down by Bloor and Lansdowne. Great coffee, great food. It's not even a minute walk from the subway.
No, that's close.
And you open at 8 a.m. and you close at Monday to Saturday, 8 to 4.
Yeah.
If you get the chance, trust me, guys, you want to go. It's a great food and great atmosphere. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Share if you can. And God bless, my friends. Take care.